We continue our conversation with the co-author of this book, Dr. Ed Hindson, the book Target Israel, subtitled Caught in the Crosshairs of the End Times. Dr. Hindson, this is all so fascinating. People are calling and writing to get the book. Can you talk to us about a couple of major characters during the period the Bible refers to as, or we think of as the tribulation? There's the false prophet, and then there's the Antichrist. They're not the same people, are they?
Exactly, two different people. A false religious leader and a false political leader. I think that's very clear in the Bible. You have, interestingly, right in the middle of the book of Revelation, you have a scorecard, if you will. If you were going to go to the Blue Jays baseball game and you got the playbook, right in the middle of the playbook, there's a lineup card.
There's a roster.
Fill in the lineup cards, who's on first, who's at second, who's on short today, etc.
Yeah.
Well, right in the middle of the book of Revelation, you've got a roster. 7 symbolic players in the great end times drama, and the last 2 are the beast out of the sea and the beast out of the earth. And as you read on, he calls the beast out of the earth the false prophet. So you have a false religious leader in the end times who is urging people to follow the leadership of the Antichrist. That at least ought to tell us that there's a breakdown of theology, of biblical truth, of Christian influence in society, because society is deceived enough to be willing to follow this. And then the beast that he's called in the book of Revelation, John calls him in his letters Antichrist, against Christ. Other parts of the Bible call him the man of sin, the son of perdition, the lawless one. There are about 10 different titles of this Antichrist figure. We list that in the book and then try to describe who this might be. A leader, presumably, I think, from the Western nations. I think the Bible makes it clear the Antichrist is not a Muslim, he's not a Jew, and he's certainly not a Christian. The book of Daniel says of him, he does not regard the God of his fathers or any God. He's an atheist, a secularist. And what do we see today in Western culture? A rise of secularism that wants to push God right out of society, out of our educational system, out of our political system, out of our lives, and it never remains neutral. The vacuum is immediately then filled by Satan. It's immediately filled by evil. Evil rushes into the vacuum, and what do you have today? You don't have a passive atheism. You have this kind of angry atheism. People are mad at the God they claim they don't even believe in. When everything goes wrong, they're like, if there was a God, how could he let this happen? And they're cursing God. Well, why don't you curse evolution or the planet or natural selection? Darn you, natural selection, you're eliminating me. But they don't do that. They're mad at the God they know intuitively exists.
Yeah, it's their conscience.
They're created in the image of God to have a relationship with God, and when you don't have the relationship, you're either empty and void or angry and mad. And the truth is, God can fix all of that for anybody. I didn't grow up in a religious family. No God, no Jesus, no Bible, and yet God invaded our lives through the power of the gospel to transform everything, and he can do that for anybody.
And the gospel of Jesus Christ is even important as we look, it's important in all things, even as we look at this horrific battle of Armageddon, as we talk about the false prophet, as we talk about the Antichrist, still in the midst of all of that, there's a story of salvation.
Exactly. God is the God who is always redeeming the broken and reconciling the outcast. You know, there's a wonderful story throughout the Bible about the little town of Jericho, for example. Jericho was a place of death, destruction. God said, I've cursed the city, condemned the city, everybody dies, but spare Rahab, the prostitute, the outcast, and her family. She is redeemed, brought into the family of God, and when you get to Matthew chapter 1, she's in the line of Christ. God is not against outsiders. She was a Canaanite, but she becomes a believer. Ruth is a Moabite, but she becomes a believer. God is always reaching out to people to bring them into a relationship with himself. And what happens 1,000 years later? Jesus, the descendant of Rahab, the son of the outcast, goes to Jericho to find another outcast, Zacchaeus, the tax collector. Come down out of the tree. Today I've got to go to your house because I bring salvation to the outcasts, and that's the last person he dealt with on his way to Jerusalem.
And that same Jesus is coming again. It's in Target Israel, from Genesis to Revelation, the biblical narrative as to how God has a special relationship with the Jewish people, the establishment of the Jewish nation. It's all here, as well as the future of the Church of Jesus Christ. Ed Hindson has told us in other times together that he and Dr. LaHaye didn't write this book to scare us, but to prepare us. So get prepared. You need to get this book, Target Israel, Caught in the Crosshairs of the End Times.